When you think of brand, do you think of a logo, a tagline, or maybe an ad? What if I told you that brand isn't what you say it is, it's the job your customers hire you to do, and that every unmet need, frustration, or aspiration they feel is the foundation of a brand that connects and drives growth? Hi, my name is Linda Ginger, co-host of That Product Market Fit. And like Trevor, I hate seeing good businesses fail. Today, I'm joined by Gary Schmidt, an award-winning brand strategist and creative from Sounder, whose experience encompasses every part of the branding process, including strategy, naming, trademark and identity design, and digital experience development. We're today going to connect the dots between product market fit, jobs to be done, unmet needs, and brand strategy in a way you probably haven't heard from before. So stick with us, because by the end, Gary's going to show you how to turn raw customer insights into a strategy-led brand. And we may even have a downloadable resource to help you put it into action. And into action right away. Gary, welcome to That Product Market Fit Guy podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I've been keen to have you on the show because you and I both know that brand plays a really significant part in how target markets respond to new offerings. But before we get into the crux of today's topic, can you just share with our viewers a bit about how you built Sounder branding into what it is today?
Yeah, thank you, Linda. I started my career as a designer and creative, which obviously I still do. But I was always just incredibly frustrated by the subjectivity of the judging of the work, and always found there was a real gap between what we were doing and the goals of the business, which meant no one, not us, not the CMO, not the CEO, really had any way of gauging if what we were doing would actually shift the needle and deliver results. And that led me to developing the studio strategy, which keeps evolving to this day, and it's built the business around that.
So that's great, Gary. And look, most people think of a brand as a logo, but you've often said, I should say, that the brand is much deeper than that. So how do you define brand in the context of solving customer problems?
Yeah, look, it's still a question we get asked all the time. You know, people say, we need a brand when what they're talking about is a logo. We always have to take them a few steps back and dig deeper. It's really the brand's sole job is to be the interface between your offer and your audience. So it doesn't actually solve the problem, but it lets people know that you can. It describes who you are, what you do, why it matters. And really, if you can answer those questions in a way that moves your audience or your targets, you're on your way to having a brand that lets people know why you're the only one that can solve their particular problem that they're facing.
Yeah, look, I love the way you describe it as that real interface. So
Thank you.
You take a very varied approach to building a brand. Could you just walk us through like the layers and why each is so important?
Yeah, look, every project's a little bit different. Sometimes we're building from the ground up, completely greenfield. Other times, we're taking a light touch and maybe just shifting the positioning or something like that a little bit. But it always has to start with strategy. Strategy for us is that tool that unites the internal and external audiences, and it really sets the scene. It's the foundation of everything you do. If you don't have that in place, really, you're just guessing. And by you, I mean us as well, in the creative execution. So the brand touches every part of the organization. So it's from everything from vision to positioning, all the way through to your day-to-day operations. So it's really not just the visual identity. It's naming, it's messaging, it's how it sounds, how it looks, how it acts, who you hire, literally everything. And the reality is every part, every step along that brand journey is as important as any other. It's just like a car. You can't drive one flat tire. Well, you can, but you're going to have a terrible experience. So any given brand might need different efforts or assets put towards it, but the assets all have to work cohesively and pull in the same direction.
Yeah, Gary, it's amazing most people don't think of brand as having its whole strategy behind it from the beginning. And I think that's what the most important thing is out of all of this. So how does the brand work then link into, the unmet needs, fears and frustrations that customers feel?
Yeah, look, it's really the brand, if it's done properly, will reflect their goals back to them in a positive way. And it's going to answer the question that's or meet the need that's been circling around in the back of their head when they're ready to engage with whatever service it is you're putting in front of them. And if you get it right, it's as if it's asking them or answering them in their own voice and says, look, we understand you, we understand the challenge you're facing, and we can help you with that.
Yeah,
Really great example of that is Nike, just do it. Should I go for a run? Just do it.
yeah. No, I love that. I love that. Then they feel like you're actually talking to them specifically. You know,
Exactly.
that old statement that when you're marketing to everyone, you're marketing to no one. I think that really picks up on this point too.
Yes, perfectly said. Yes.
Now, you gave the example of Nike. Can you give us an example where, the deliberate design choice, maybe a logo or a tone of voice, has made like a measurable difference in a customer's adoption?
Oh, yeah, look, there's so many. Probably a personal favorite from our own work would be a client I've been working with for well over 30 years now, since work experience in university. Seed Golf. This was a guy who's been in the industry for that long, for 30 years. And we knew we need to be radically different in the marketplace and meet the unmet need, which was young up and coming golfers who didn't want to be seen as traditional, who want something a little bit different, a little bit punk. And so we literally flipped the script on it to the point we literally flipped even the boxes, the standardized box sizes that golf balls come in. We made sure we did what we could with them and even turned them sideways so that they couldn't even be placed on the shelves in the same way. He launched that company in Ireland, and within 8 years, it was in 37 countries with zero
Wow.
traditional marketing spend. So no money spent on advertising, just word of mouth and the brand assets.
Amazing. Yeah, I guess, the whole differentiation of finding that unmet need and then making the whole experience around picking up on that gap, isn't it?
Yes,
Even down to the
absolutely.
name, which is sort of
Yes.
unexpected as well.
Hmm.
So just moving on from there, you've been using data like I have been, from the same sort of AI marketing tools that we use for finding niche submarkets. How does that data change the way you approach brand creation?
Yeah, look, for us, probably the biggest benefit we see is that it allows us to move with so much more pace.
Mm,
Um, our industry is one that's always seems to be under a lot of time pressure. Understandably, people want to get their things to market. They want to launch. They want to go well, but at the same time, we can't shortchange the process. Having data at this level really makes it very quantifiable for us, and so we can validate hunches and remove assumptions that we'd have to have made in the past in a very, very measurable way as well. The other thing for us is, tapping into that science gives our clients a lot more security and trust in the creative solution because we can point back
mm,
to and say, we can see that it's satisfying these points that have been validated by the data in the
mm.
process. So it really erodes a lot of doubt and apprehension, which for us is a huge thing. Probably 25 to 30% of what we do is holding sweaty hands and saying, yes, it's going to be okay. So anything we can do to remove that apprehension and get people excited about their next step is a fantastic thing for us.
Yeah, no, I know from my own experience, just being able to have that sort of data, by the time you actually do it the long traditional way, everything's moved on, particularly technology, and you haven't really still got that confidence. But I think, the whole speeding up process does and give the confidence that enables people who may have had reluctance about launching a new idea, can give
Mm,
them the confidence. But either
yeah.
way, to either go or not go. So,
Or to pivot. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's
yeah,
so yeah, faster, better foundation. I mean, why would you
yeah.
say no?
So, what's the benefit of designing a brand for a sub-market niche instead of just going, broad from the start?
Well, really, the biggest benefit for us is, and for the majority of the clients we deal with, is it allows you to be a lot more intentional and to have
Mm,
a lot greater impact. Look, everyone wants to be a world builder beater from day one, and it doesn't mean you can't be, but when funds are limited, particularly at the start, and you're looking to build or synthesize trust really quickly in your brand, focusing on that smaller audience makes a lot more sense. Obviously, it costs less, but it also
mm.
means you have less vectors of success to worry about and keep an eye on. You can just make sure you're getting two or three things right, exactly right, and then go for it. The other nice thing about niche markets is that news travels really, really quickly in smaller communities, and I can testify
Mm,
this having been raised in rural Queensland. So it's a great way to test the waters, adjust your approach, especially if you're actively engaged with your audience, if you take the front foot on that. Um, you just need to make sure, obviously, that your strategy services that niche market, but it's not
mm,
so niche that it limits your growth goals in the future. So again, that comes back to the data validating the size of the market,
mm.
and their spend and interest.
Yeah, no, that's great. I find sometimes that people have this fear that when we're trying to look at finding a niche market for them, that they think that we're trying to not realize the bigger vision of owning the whole market. But being able to get traction in a smaller market and has builds all that proof, and it enables you to have that really sharp messaging that those people in that niche think they're talking to them. So,
Yep.
yeah, it is fascinating watching people think that we still want the big vision of them winning the whole market, but we've got
Yeah.
to start somewhere. And yeah, no, that's a
And
fantastic
look, what that
response.
does too is it builds terrific loyalty really, really
Mm,
quickly, especially if it's an unserved market and you're the one that sees them and
yeah,
says, "Hey, we get it." They will be customers till the day they die.
yeah, yeah. And look, I think that the raving fans just creates a viral effect on other people to want that too. So it
Absolutely.
has lots of benefits.
Yeah.
So if jobs to be done and the unmet needs are the foundation of like product market fit, how do you then ensure that the brand also reflects those same insights?
Um, this always seems a little bit murky at first, but really it all comes down to the character you establish in your brand strategy. Character is really where people connect with you, or with each other. And the reality is, when you know who you are and you have a strong character that's different from your competitors, a lot of the other decisions you have to make around making sure things fit become much, much simpler. It becomes much easier to focus. And yeah, as I say, character is how people will actually choose you. It's probably the fourth or fifth step along the buyer's journey, but it's where you win them over, where you win their hearts and minds. And if you can get it right, it erodes a bunch of other barriers, like it might be cost or availability or
Mm,
things like this. You can still build that loyalty and still be seen as being
yeah.
irreplaceable.
Yeah. Do you find that people have I guess, they don't realize what you mean by character? Is there a way of
Mm.
describing that? I know we're going
Yes.
to do some other podcasts in the future, Gary. We're going to get a bit deeper into that. So if you want to leave it till then, that's fine. But
No, 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 no.
yeah, I
I'm
think it'd
more
be
than
a
happy
really
to.
nice thing to be able to just explain to people what character actually means.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So character is really the biggest arsenal we have in our brand strategy to really strongly differentiate even a standardized product. I'll use C as an example again because that's actually a really good one.
Yeah, that's good.
The whole point with golf balls is that they have a 1 to 2% margin of error on their construction, so they are literally all the same. And the only thing you're doing when you're buying a particular brand is you're identifying with the values and characteristics of that brand. So in the case of seed, as I said, we knew there was a whole market, an underserviced market of younger golfers who want to go out and just have a fun game and be a little bit edgy. This is their place to relax with their friends, to get a little wild. Titleist are great balls, but they don't meet that need. They don't have that character. So the seed character is really okay. What are three words that we can put against ourselves that we promise to always be, that will set us apart from our competitors? So they're usually very bold words. It might be something like, in the case of seed, it was rebellious. The
Mm,
next one was accepting. But what we were serious about with seed was serious about having fun and not taking ourselves too seriously. So we can then take those characteristics and say, okay, we've got a new product coming in, or we've got a new campaign going out. Does it align to these characteristics? And if it doesn't, what do we need to change to make sure that it does? Um,
yeah.
and so that meant that gave us permission with C to really to use some language and visuals that you just simply don't see in golf normally. And that's what made us stand out.
You've sold me, Gary. You know that I'm one of the rebellious golfers.
They're good balls as
I
well.
love it. So, okay, we'll just get back to, and I know we're going to cover this off in some later episodes too, but just looking at, mistakes. What mistakes do you see that startups make when they rush to create a brand without sort of understanding those unmet needs or anything that you've just
Mm.
described?
One of the biggest thing we see is I think the majority of startups underestimate the importance of branding and the fact that it's not a expense, it's actually an asset that's going to
Mm,
build value for your business. Um, so that sort of results in this thing where people think, okay, we'll get the branding done once we've gotten a little bit more successful and we've got some cash coming through. Um, so inevitably they end up doing themselves, or they might get a friend who's got some software, or goes to art college or whatever it might be. Usually they don't actually get a brand; they just get a logo. It's usually just a grab bag of things that they like personally, rather than speaking to the audience needs. So it never really connects. It never really, and that's the one job it has to do.
mm.
And it's a job that's critical for adoption of the product or the service. So that's why it's critical to get it right from the start.
Yeah, I
Um,
know. And I do
other big,
feel for them at the very beginning. It's
it can be tricky. Yeah, it's everything's got a dollar sign against it when you're starting a company, and I know that I've started quite a few. But
yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like, no, trust me, if we get this right now, it seems like a lot of money, but if we measure that over the next 10 to 20 years,
Mm,
you will see a massive return on it.
mm.
Probably the other big issue that we see all the time is people not quite understanding how they need to protect their brand legally, or creating something that actually limits their future growth, that paints them into a corner.
Yeah, or even which I've just recently seen where they've chosen a name, for example, that's actually already existing. They haven't even checked to make sure it's been trademarked
Mhm.
or or used previously. And it's hard if you start building a bit of a brand on the back of that, and then you're going, well, brand's important. You try and trademark it and realize you can't actually
Exactly.
trademark it.
Yeah.
It's very disappointing. So yeah,
That's
trying to
a
get that done up. Once you've got your product market fit, you're going to know the audience anyway to be able to brief that in at that stage. Um, yeah,
Absolutely.
that could
Yeah.
inform everything then too. Maybe it's just, getting it in the timeline of starting a business, etc. It's a more of a timing thing,
Absolutely.
but not
Yeah.
waiting for you to make the first sale.
No, 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 no. Exactly. I think
Uh,
there's a lot of confusion around, people saying, well, we searched ASIC and the name was clear. It's like, that's not a
I
trademark though. So
know.
it is complicated, and but it doesn't need to be.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, how does a brand, Gary, amplify adoption when entering a new market, especially when it's like in that, and Trevor's spoken about this before, it's in the low end or using a disruptive strategy?
Yeah. Okay. Look, at the end of the day, a lot of these things are just human interactions, and
Mm,
people love to share stories and share things that they've found with their friends. It's one of as I said, it's one of the things that really makes us human. So having a brand that's really shareable, to that you need to be really, really bold. And again, you need to make sure you're really aligning with that product fit, because that's what unlocks your connection
mm,
to your audience. If you can meet that need in a way that's surprising and gives people a story to tell, whatever, and that story can be anything. It just needs to make sense for your offer.
mm.
Um, that's how you can really, really rapidly expand your sphere of influence. It's exponential. Because each person is shared with, as they pick it up, they're going to share it with all of their friends, and it just keeps going and going and going through that social network.
Yeah, I love that idea. If you can have a story behind it, it just makes
Mm,
the telling of it and the probably the pride that comes from being able to share that too.
yes, exactly. Yeah.
Now, we're just sort of coming to the conclusion of our podcast today, but if you could give founders one golden rule for building a
Goodness.
brand that communicates product market fit, what would that be?
Look, you've got to remember, this is going to sound incredibly harsh, but I've done a lot of these. You've got to remember that it's not about you.
Yay, it's not about you. That's
The
right.
brand's not about you. It's not about us either as creatives. It's about meeting, communicating that market need, communicating that
Mm.
product fit in a way that makes sense for your audience. So personal preferences have nothing to do with the brand development. But if you can build a strategy that lets you execute on your product and market fit boldly and consistently, I don't think 12 months down the line we'll mix it up and keep it fresh. That's the other mistake we see all the time. Just stay the course because it takes years and years and years to build that level of brand awareness. That'd probably be the two big ones. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think most people don't realize too that there's got to be some, sustainability in the brand that you develop. I mean, you shouldn't be thinking about changing it every few years. It actually should have that longevity or have the
Absolutely.
ability to have the longevity in the market. Yeah, completely agree.
Yes, exactly. There's plenty of fun you can have around it, but you need to keep your pillars strong. Yeah.
Or you have that other one where someone's just tweaking something and you go, "Oh,
Yeah,
that's always a bit of a
yeah,
worry."
yeah. Tweaking things,
Well,
introduce
we c
or a sub brand. That's always a fun
yes, or
one.
a
Pops up.
sub-brand. Yeah,
Yeah,
agree.
people love to make
A
things.
product hierarchy, brand hierarchy thing. Yeah, I
Yes,
see that all the time too.
yes.
So, Gary, where can people learn about you and Sounder?
Look, right now, probably LinkedIn is the best place to catch me. We don't
Yep.
look. We're really not interested in being on things like Instagram too much. And we're, as a lot of brand agencies are, we're perpetually redeveloping our website. So really, LinkedIn is the best place to reach out if you want to have a chat or see a little bit more of what we're about. Yeah, just Gary Schmidt. I'm pretty
Wonderful,
easy to
Gary.
find.
Yeah, that's good. No, that's excellent. And we'll have a downloadable for you too. And we've got some other, I think from this discussion, we decided that there was a lot more to be able to tell you and give you real life, you know, sharing backgrounds of brands that have been fabulously successful and some, where they went wrong. So we'll have a little chat along their way as well. But what we've seen today, everyone, is that brand isn't the visual. It is actually a deliberate response to the customer's needs or the jobs that they want done, their unmet needs and their aspirations. So if you want to build a product that truly fits the market, you can't ignore brand. And Gary's kindly shared a downloadable resource to help you apply these principles to your own business. The link is just below, so grab it, put it to work, and as always, subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the episodes so we can unlock those secrets of product market fit. And thank you, Gary, for being with us today.
Thank you, Linda, for having me.